Each grain of barley is a complicated little package of carbohydrates and protein produced by the plant to provide energy for the germinating seed. Malting uses water, air and heat to basically fool the seed into germinating and producing enzymes capable of converting the complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. Essentially, malting comprises 3 steps: steeping or soaking to raise the moisture level in the seed to trigger sprouting; germination, where the moistened grain is kept humid and aerated to encourage enzyme production and partial breakdown of the grain's carbohydrates and proteins; and then kilning, where heat is used to gently dry the grain to halt germination and stabilize the malt. This process varies from malthouse to malthouse, where slightly different systems may be used, but the basic steps remain the same. When barley arrives at the malthouse, it's screened to clean the grain and then goes into steeping vessels, where it's soaked with water for up to a day, raising the moisture content to between 40 and 45%, stimulating the grain to grow. Air is bubbled through the water to ensure the grain has enough oxygen to remain viable. After several hours, the water is drained off to allow the grain to recover and begin to germinate. This is known as the air rest phase. Usually, this is followed by a second wet phase to optimize the grain moisture content. The steeping program varies according to the barley variety, grain characteristics, and the age of the grain. At the end of steeping, the grain is transferred to the germination boxes. Traditionally, germination took place on the malt house floor, and the grain was turned with a shovel to ensure even germination. Modern malting plants use mechanized systems to turn the grain, ensuring even airflow and moisture levels and preventing the emerging rootlets from matting together. The germination process, like the steeping process, is monitored closely as it has a critical effect on the quality of the final malt. The temperature, airflow and amount of moisture are carefully watched. The grain stays in the germination vessels for about 4 days, allowing the enzyme sufficient time to begin breaking down the complex carbohydrates and proteins. The art of malting lies in carefully controlling the modification of the various biochemical components during germination to produce malt that meets brewers' stringent requirements. The process is controlled so that this is achieved within the 4-day germination period. At the end of that time, heat is applied to halt the germination process. The malt is heated up with air which gradually rises from 50 degrees Celsius to over 85 degrees in up to 24 hours. The malt becomes very dry, stops growing, and gets its characteristic malty flavour. When it enters the malt house, barley usually has about 10% moisture. At the end of germination, it's up to about 44%, and it's then dried down to about 4% moisture. After kilning, the grain is cleaned again to remove the now dry and brittle rootlets, and the dry malt is ready for storage or shipment. Brewers specify protein, moisture, enzyme levels, extract, colour, viscosity and fermentability, amongst other things. The malting process is adjusted so specific batches meet specific brewers' needs.